we will start the meeting. First on the agenda is the dog law, incorporating a lot of the comments and changes and revisions following the public hearing that we held. You know, there was a lot of comments, a lot of good comments that were like to the point, so we could address them in the law versus just general, I don't like this, or I do like this, and it's like, well, what do you like and what don't you like? You know, what's gonna help and what's not gonna help. I know Eli McWinney here from our county attorney's office, he really went, well, that's right, town attorney. I can think, okay. Went through and did a lot of the comparison with the egg and markets law and maybe trimming down some of our wordiness into what they had a little more succinctly, and also so we don't confuse the dog control officer with trying to enforce our law and their law and what doesn't quite coincide. So you've done quite an in-depth review of it, so I don't know if you want to go through and.
So after,
Excuse me 1 second, do you have another copy?
Yeah.
Anybody want a copy? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
no problem. So what we did is I was making notes of all of the comments that we got at the public hearing, as well as some of the written submissions that came in after the public hearing. And a lot of the comments were based around, there's already ag and markets law out there, why don't we just use that?
Right.
I like ag and markets law. I have prosecuted numerous dangerous dog violations for several municipalities under agriculture and markets law. It's very doable, but in my experience, and like I said, it's something that I've worked with frequently, it does have a few shortfalls. So what we did is we took the draft that we had assembled that the town really wanted, and then we kind of went back through it and we incorporated a lot of the changes and incorporated a lot of agriculture and markets law directly into this. So, ma'am, who's looking through the copies there, there's two versions of the draft law, of draft 7. One is redlined, which shows the changes that were made from the past draft, and the other version is what I would call the clean version. So starting with the definitions, we just incorporated some of the definitions verbatim right out of agriculture and markets law. Just to kind of clarify some of the different categories of animals that they have. They have companion animals, which we would typically call pets. Domestic animals are sheep, cattle, those types of animals. Farm animals are more poultry, actual farm cattle as opposed to wild cattle. They have different definitions of each category, so we've just incorporated those in there. So that when we did add language later from ag and markets, those terms were defined. So the definition of dangerous dog, there was nothing wrong with the definition that the town used, but for the sake of having a comprehensive agreement that is in line with ag and markets, we took the definition of a dangerous dog and just incorporated that in here. Page 3, we added the language to the end of the enclosure provision that the structure be constructed of materials that are sufficient to prevent dogs from escaping, chewing through, or breaking out of the enclosure.
Which one is that? Where are you?
That's enclosure on 3.
Oh, okay.
The last sentence, or the last 2 sentences were added. And again, I'm looking at the red line version.
Okay.
So if you're trying to compare page numbers, I'm going through that one. Page 4, we added definitions for physical injury and serious physical injury because those are, again, distinguished between agriculture and markets law. They're two different things. And then we just kind of added some clarity to the run at large definition. that shall mean to be unrestrained or out of the control of the owner or harborer, again, in a public place or on private lands without the knowledge, consent, and approval of the owner or occupant of the lands.
And that was one of the comments, correct?
Correct.
That's why we.
That wasn't a public comment, that was something that I had noticed.
Okay.
And that unrestrained or out of control language is very typical in, many municipal animal control laws that I see, so. Restrictions, section 5 here, still on page 4. A, again, the run at large language was kind of incorporated from the definition into section A there. Section B, we formerly had was our version of the barking, howling, nuisance language. At the suggestion of the board, we've incorporated the language from the Attica Town Law, which was recommended by Ms. Goodell. So the change in that is that it now has to be to be a violation of this particular section, the barking, howling, crying, whining has to occur for more than 5 minutes between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m., or for more than 15 minutes between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., or for a shorter duration than cited above, but on more than 4 occasions within one 10-day period, and that would have to be attested to from complaints by 2 different property owners. And again, that's exactly how the Attica law was set out. It seemed to be pretty well received at the public hearing, so we've incorporated that directly into our law.
Do you know if they've had to utilize that law and how that's worked?
According to Justa, they have, and I mean, she says, like, it's kind of a pain, but, you know, the reality of sometimes dogs bark, and you gotta make sure that it's an actual nuisance before she does anything about it. So she says, you know, enforcing the Attica law can be difficult, but only as difficult as it realistically should be in some circumstances.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have golden retrievers that I've bred, okay? I've been a dog owner and I have also bred dogs for 40 years, okay? I'm also on the board of the Kennel Club of Buffalo and I'm the president of the Golden Retriever Club of Western New York. You're more than 15 minutes between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. 8 a.m., excuse me, and 10 p.m. That to me is unrealistic. I mean, you have dogs, they go out and play, and they chase each other, and they bark when they're out there playing and everything. And so they bark, you know, for 20 minutes, 25 minutes because they're playing, and you're gonna drop the book on them? That is unrealistic, I'm sorry. I've been a dog owner for 40 years, like I said, and that is totally unrealistic.
What would your suggestion be?
My suggestion would be continuously for a half an hour at least.
Just so I can get it for my notes, what's your name, ma'am?
Debbie Keller?
Didn't the,
What would you say between, so we'll just call 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. For easy sake, daytime hours. You said 30 minutes during daytime?
I'm gonna say 30 hours just off, or 30 minutes just off the top of my head.
Dogs play, they run around and bark and play, and because of neighbors, my dogs are locked up almost all the time now in the house because I can't have them out there playing, because if they're barking, I have to yell at them. So it's either dog bark or me screaming at them, trying to get them to stop playing. And how is that fair to the dogs? Honestly, then kids shouldn't be outside playing and screaming.
Well,
at
yeah,
them.
I mean, you know, how many of us are, you know, kids screaming and yelling all afternoon if you live around kids, and it's like, you know,
but
I'd rather hear the dogs barking, to be honest.
didn't the lady, what's her name, Jess?
Jessica Goodell?
I think she said if they got a complaint, she would look into it, and if the dogs are playing, like you said, they're being dogs.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't be, she would just say they're out playing with the kids or playing with each other.
Mhm.
I think what they're more about when they're not being attended to and they're home alone and they're barking. I thought that's what I got from what she was saying.
I mean, home alone, they're outside and nobody's home?
Or if they're like tied up to a tree and, you
Well, they
know,
shouldn't be tied up to a tree anyway, but go ahead.
you're right, exactly. But I think she was just saying, she was gonna look into it and she would say if it was gonna be a problem or there's just being kids basically. 'Cause
I mean, I can say, you know, during, all night, you know, night long for 15 minutes, but during the day,
Right,
I mean, I don't agree with that at all.
So
Yeah.
that was gonna be my next question. So
Yeah.
for the, nighttime hours, 10 to 10 PM to 8 AM.
Yeah.
Is five not long enough, would
I
you
don't think
think,
so.
or?
I mean, 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and if you let them out to go to the bathroom, so they're out there for 5 minutes barking, I think that should be higher too.
Well, yeah, exactly, you
But-
know, some people come home from work at 11 o'clock at night, and they gotta put their dogs out, and they're barking for more than 5 minutes, so I mean, you know.
I mean, you have first responders that work, 11 to 7, you come home at 11:30, you gotta let the dogs out. you
Yeah,
know,
and I think, I mean,
But
you tell
also-
me, is 10 minutes enough?
Yeah, you have
That's
to
all
look
I
at the
just
other
need to
side of it too, though.
10
What
at
if you're the
night,
first
30 during the day?
responder or the elderly person who has been going through chemo and you're laying home and it's,
Yeah.
9 o'clock at night and it's like, you're hoping that you can get a good night's sleep.
I guess
Or
you could
it's
say
8
that with
o'clock.
anyone though, if you work third shift, you're going to bed at what, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9
Yeah.
o'clock in
I
the
was just gonna
morning?
bring
Well,
that up.
even
The
8
COs
o'clock
at
in the
work
morning,
for-
now you're telling them you can listen to a barking dog for a half an hour.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the half an hour is done, you gotta call and make a phone call and
I
try to
mean,
talk to the
Justice says
neighbor.
perfectly legal to have a dog door for your dog to go inside and outside of the house while you
Yeah.
are at work. And how do you know how long your dog is barking unless you have someone sitting there watching your dogs? Because most dogs might be fine, but if someone shows up to your house, I'll be honest, someone shows up at, say, 10:30 at night, the dogs might bark for at least 5 minutes, settle down usually by 10 minutes.
And that, part of that is why we kept in that, if you look, I apologize, I forgot you don't have a copy in front of you. But we do have language in there that it would be an affirmative defense to a violation of this section of the law, that if the dog was, provoked by a person or anything like that, that would, the way we phrase it is if the dog was being provoked by a person or was otherwise being incited, or acting in its capacity as like a work dog or a service dog, etc., that would not fall under the purview of that. So if somebody came to your property late at night and your dog's reacted, because I hope my dogs do. If somebody shows up to my door at 11 o'clock, I want my dog to bark.
All right.
Like, I think that's a different thing. The tricky thing is, Justin Goodell's been doing this job for, a very long time, and she's very good at her job, and she's a very reasonable dog control officer. But the reality of the situation is, she's gonna retire one day, and whoever comes in next is gonna need, you can hope that they're as good as she is, but you don't necessarily know that. So the trick for the town's perspective is that we have to balance it in a way that the dog control officer can enforce the law, and also in a way that protects both residents and the dogs for being dogs. So, again, we're here to work this out and continue the drafting, so the feedback's appreciated.
Well, during the day, I think you gotta be pretty lenient during the day. I mean, I'm not telling you that, you allow dogs to bark, 1, 2, 3 hours continuously all day. Okay, I don't go for that. My dogs would be in the house. But during the day, you gotta be a little bit more lenient, because that's when dogs are outside if you're home. And during the night, I will say that I am aggravated a number of times of dogs by me. I live at 101 Clinton, where the Fosses used to live. By dogs on both sides of me, sometimes barking for half an hour during the night, as well as cows mooing when their calves are taken away. I was up for 2 nights, one for last year, because the cows next door were mooing all night long because the calves were taken away. Now, to me, that's just as much a problem as even worse than dogs.
We have to do a cow law now?
No, but I'm using it as an example of.
No, we understand, we're sorry.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I do feel that maybe 5 minutes is not enough time, because again, if you let your dogs out for 5 minutes at night, and
I
unfortunately,
agree.
I mean, everybody has a right to have a dog, but everybody has a right to have peace. So
Right.
we've got to find that happy medium,
Right.
and that's the hard part. Because I'll do something that won't make, you will be unhappy, and the other person is happy, and then vice
No, I
versa.
get it. I just,
It's
like
tough.
I
I
said.
agree that if a dog is barking for hours by themselves, I mean, if you're a good pack leader, you make sure that you take care of your dogs and that if they're barking for a reason.
Right.
And
we
it's up
do-
to you to correct it.
We do have that occurs continually language in here, so, it should be a continuous thing. And again, were you at the public hearing by chance?
No, I couldn't make it,
So
my
Ms.
husband
Goodell-
passed away, so I,
And when she enforces this law in Attica,
yeah.
if somebody makes a report of a noise-related nuisance from a dog,
Mhm.
she actually she'll go and sit at the property herself
Mhm.
and try and track it. But again, that's because she's an excellent dog control officer. You have to hope that whoever comes in next after her, and again, not even something that the town decides because it's a countywide position.
Right,
You would have to hope that whoever comes in after her when she does retire is also as diligent in looking into the complaints as she is.
right, right.
So, but yes, we do, I agree, you know, if somebody's dog barks for 5 minutes once in the afternoon, like, should they be cited? No.
I have a question. How do you, whoever makes the complaint, how do you say that it really was for half an hour?
Well, again, that's where you hope that the dog control officer comes in and investigates.
Okay.
But again, I mean, at the end of the day, if the town or somebody acting on the town's behalf issues a ticket, it's the town's burden of proof to prove that that's what happened, so.
Yeah.
If you wanna make the complaint, you should, you better be able to come, be ready to testify, unless just witnessed something herself and can testify on her own behalf, but other than that, and again, I mean, you can come and testify and say, I was home and I heard the dogs barking for 30 continuous minutes, and the property owner can say, I was home all day and I didn't hear my dog barking for 30 minutes, and what's a judge gonna do without evidence? So it's almost it's not the complainant's obligation to provide the evidence, but if they want something done about it, best practice is gonna be record it, provide the recording to the dog control officer.
Or have a witness, maybe another neighbor heard it,
Yep,
whatever.
Because if you're not home, you don't know that your dogs are barking. Not
correct.
unless you have something recorded yourself.
So that was one of the relatively big changes that we did make. Page 5, and again, it's continuing section 5, just some,
Cindy, do you know where we are? Do you know where we are?
I see it now. Yeah, I had a question early on, but I
Oh,
was
go
late,
ahead.
so.
if you have a question, go ahead.
It was on the containment of the dangerous dogs. A top, really? They can't get sunshine?
Do we-
I
for
don't think it
enclosure?
has to be,
I mean,
I don't think it has to be solid. If they have homes.
Dangerous dog
Yeah,
or just
it should
any
have
dog?
a
Kennel.
yeah.
But it's only dogs that are labeled dangerous by the court of law though, right? It has to have that title from the judge.
Correct.
Right.
So just because if the dog has a bite history doesn't mean it's a dangerous dog unless the judge.
And also, it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be like a chain link top. It's just something to prevent the dog from getting out. It doesn't have to be, something that's impermeable.
Okay.
And that's only for if it's been deemed dangerous.
Correct.
And the deemed dangerous, we're using the Ag and Markets Law for the definition.
Yes.
We're not,
Yeah, we'll go through that, because that was
Okay.
really the other big thing that was changed.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on page 5 again, just some linguistic changes. Paragraph G on page 5, I did add the provision that if somebody has a dog at the Bennington Town Park, I added non-retractable leash as opposed to just leash. Paragraph H there, we did raise the dog limitation number from 4 to 6.
Wait, I got a question. Why does it matter if it's non-retractable? Are they not as sound?
If
or-
if the concern is dangerous dogs here, retractable leashes are not as structurally sound as, and again,
Just like one,
Right, people let them go. Oh, here, let
Yeah.
my dog go visit you, and
Yeah.
you don't want them there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that, I
Okay.
understand that retractable thing.
the restriction on what is essentially ownership of danger, or importing of dangerous dogs, as Ms. Goodell pointed out, we can only really enforce dangerous dog determinations that were made in New York State, because other states' laws are different. They may not meet the threshold that ours does. So I did add the language that no dog has been deemed dangerous by a court of competent jurisdiction in the state of New York may be brought into the town limits by any person, non-for-profit corporation, or animal rescue shelter.
But, so if it's been deemed dangerous in another state, it can be brought here because therefore it's not.
It's not an
dangerous.
enforceable designation. I mean, if something ended up happening, you would be able to use the other state's
Prior.
designation as notice of the vicious propensity is the language that's
Okay.
used under ag and markets.
Okay.
But
Wait,
what
question.
What happens if, I mean, somebody's making provisions for that containment, the rehabilitation possibly, not that they're gonna ever leave there, but for the training and rehabilitation of those dogs? For instance, Matt,
You're saying he can't bring in a
he
dog
can't
that,
bring in a dog that,
say a judge in Lancaster said this dog's dangerous, you're saying he can't bring it to a sanctuary now?
Correct.
and some of those dogs can be rehabbed.
Yeah, how did,
Sure.
And
I mean, you're going straight after a rescue,
Right.
but that's what they stand behind.
right.
Again,
I think we're protecting the community, I mean, that's the other side, we're
But
protecting the
if you're
community.
requiring him to have double fence, he has to have the fence completely, covered up on top.
Yeah, but
now,
we don't
so-
know what he has, Alicia, because he doesn't come and license his dogs, so.
I'm just saying though, if that's your requirement for having that, wouldn't he be allowed to then have those dogs there?
No,
If he's
'cause
following the
Not
requirements that are
after
required?
this.
the problem is you can have the containment, but what happens when the dog's not in the containment? And the dog is out and somebody's walking him or something? Yeah, I love dogs, but I can't, I also love kids.
I will
You
say
know.
this, you should be more worried about the dogs that are not labeled dangerous yet, that are living in the community. Just my experience with Alden right now,
Yeah,
and a dog I picked up, and it had more than 6 bites, and no one ever reported because they felt bad.
right.
Those are the ones you want to be more concerned about than one that's actually in a facility, getting the training, the proper care and everything, doing all the right things. Where this guy, his response was, well, I open up the door all the time, he runs right to the truck to go in. The dog ran 3 houses down to grab another dog.
Yeah.
So that to me is more dangerous than a rescue.
So you wanna
that's
bring
made
that
up.
dog into our town?
I'm saying no, but it's in the safe area, and they're
Yeah, I
totally, they're on top of everything that that dog
Right.
needs to working on
But
recovering
if,
it.
there's always an if.
But the dangerous ones we know about, the ones that we don't know about. So I mean, you can't legislate everything out, is the problem.
Because some of them have been mistreated and held wrong by some crazy judge, I'm sorry, get some judge that isn't thinking straight too, and they're not being treated fairly. They're being held for months, and I'll go to Matt has taken them, and they're rehab, they're able to be.
But the problem is,
just
too, is
wanna-
that
letting them
he
loose.
doesn't like, we don't know what he has. So he's gonna bring him anyways, so we're just doing this to protect our community. He's gonna do whatever he wants.
I will
He
say
doesn't
this,
license his
He
dogs.
has to now though,
What?
starting December 15th, just so you know.
What?
The new laws are going for ag and market, he has a license, that's one of the laws.
Yeah, but is he going to?
If he wants to keep his rescue as a 501c3 and registered with ag and market, he's gonna have to, they're coming in
Yeah,
starting
but
the
I
first of the
don't,
year.
I mean, this is,
I'm just saying, that is a law.
I mean, did you see his dog bites? Did you see his dog
I
bites?
100 have,
Okay.
I've actually seen the bites
You
of some
got
of those
people
dogs
that
are
have
there.
little kids around that neighborhood. What
They're
if that
scared.
happened to that little kid?
Yeah.
What if? What if? You don't know. What if?
There's what ifs with everything, I
he's-
completely understand.
That's right.
But you're
So
saying
it's
he
our,
has to
it's
have
our
fencing.
job to protect them.
But you're saying he's having to have fences there.
The dogs that he has now,
And, well,
but he's gonna bring them in anyways.
right.
Just, he doesn't care. He's
Some of
gonna
them
bring
have
them
better
in.
living conditions
Yeah,
than somebody's kids.
He's not
But,
gonna
but to
listen.
use your example about the
certainly-
dogs, you know, and again, they could be in all the contained, well, he's shown what happened to him. This is, you know, using your example, he's shown what happened to his girlfriend. So again,
That one I do not.
I don't wanna take
Yeah,
that chance
I don't
for
know
some other neighbor.
Because you know what, we're criticized if we do something, we're criticized if we don't do anything. But it's happened to him, and he put it on Facebook as proof. He did, his
Right,
dog
but
did
he
that
also
to him.
explained what happened.
I know,
when
but
he
it's
did
still,
that.
those are the dogs that
It
he's
scares the
taking in.
community, that's the
Yeah.
problem, and the thing is,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that was scary, because he was mauled by that dog.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll
and
be
if you
honest,
were
that
his
dog-
neighbor,
that-
and you saw
that
that,
dog
cause he's a
He's
professional, he
lucky
knows
to
what he's doing.
I know,
And
I
that
know.
happened.
I know it, so we
Yeah.
have to wait for something like that to happen to a little kid?
But
Or
he
even
made
a
a bad
person running
decision,
down
he
the
was in a
road?
confined area with that dog, and he was down on the ground,
But it
Trying to
doesn't
go
matter,
out
it
that door and
happened.
teach
You
them.
have little kids
Yeah.
crawling around, what if a dog escapes and goes into another person's yard? The little kid's crawling around on the ground. It's gonna kill him. That dog will kill that kid. And we're trying to protect that. We're trying to protect the community because we're getting hell for not doing
I think the
that.
perimeter fence, I mean, if
Right.
he only has a few dogs that have been deemed dangerous in New York State.
Mhm.
You put those in proximity, you know, like the two different shelters next to each other, and put a fence around that. It's not like he's gonna have to fence in the entire area and every single shelter.
Yeah, but this applies more than just him. This is to
Right.
protect
Right.
the community in general. If somebody else decides that, okay, they want us,
Or their dog's deemed dangerous.
yeah, yeah.
How are you gonna
Yeah.
find that out if someone from the community, say Joe Schmo, just went and took a dog from somebody in Canandaigua, is deemed dangerous and they didn't want to be euthanized and brought it here? How do we find out that dog was deemed dangerous?
Well, does it
They'll
follow the
call- they'll
license?
call
The
us.
court, yeah,
The
the court,
court will call and
Yeah.
say,
yes.
okay, I didn't
That's how
know.
we found out that he was bringing dogs in, because they called.
Okay, they come.
And then despite being told by, Justa and myself that, we did not want any dangerous dogs here, and the court having said that they would not ship them out unless they were accepted in the community, they shipped them out anyways because they didn't want to have to deal with this.
The judge signed off on it.
Yeah.
He sent the dog anyways.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, they've been almost like a prisoner remanded to his custody or whatever, you know, put it that way, that,
Yeah.
that dog is to stay
I
with
know,
him.
What kind of life is that for that dog?
Have you been there?
I know, but if a dog is,
You're right, that some of those kennels that he has are nicer than places that
Hey, I
I
said.
do a lot of family court stuff, and those dogs live in better conditions than a lot of children.
They
I
have
see.
kids' beds. They have their
I've
own
toured
rooms.
his facility.
Yeah,
They're
and
very
it
nice.
is a
Yeah.
very nice facility, I will say
Yeah.
that.
yeah, but
But
still.
anyone could argue, yes, is that a life for a dog? Some dogs, absolutely yes, they can live in that and be perfectly fine. Other dogs can go kennel crazy, even though it's that nice. It really depends on genetics. If it's a genetic problem wrong with that dog, you can't fix genetics, just
Right.
like people.
And he is not the crust of the
No.
problem. The problem is we're
No.
trying to protect the whole town.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
I mean, that's, because we don't know what the next person's gonna do.
well,
It's all that if.
And if
if this is a new law, I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
a facility's grandfather.
Correct.
Well, the scary thing is, I mean, he has been involved in this for several years, he's studied it, he's had training, and he still got attacked. And one of his workers that he really trusted there still got attacked. And it's not like a casual person walking in there and wanting to visit the dogs or whatever, and reaching in and petting the dog and getting bit.
Right.
I don't want to say this the wrong way, but you know how some people do jobs for so long and they get too comfortable?
Yeah.
Look at Hansi Boxer,
Yeah,
That's what I would
Yeah.
come back to saying,
you know,
unfortunately.
he got too comfortable with his animals, and that's what we're trying to prevent here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been attacked once. You know, you don't wanna see anybody get attacked by a dog. I've been bit multiple times, and it's not fun.
I've been chased a lot.
Well, they haven't
Never
heard
bit.
it. I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I do have a question, it's not with regard to dangerous dogs, though, it's just a couple sections I need to clarify.
Sure.
Let's see, it's on page 3, count, is the first one.
Okay.
Is that definition there specifically with regard to dangerous dogs, or say it dogs in general?
That will be dogs in general, but that also, now that I look at this, that 4 needs to change to a 6.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Yes.
you're contradicting yourself there. And I was gonna say that, okay.
And it, again, in the last sentence,
Yep, towards the 6 dog limit.
yeah.
In conjunction with that, on page 5, paragraph H, is that paragraph H, is that all specifically with regard to dangerous dogs or no?
Yeah, any dog, H, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's the total limitation,
Page 5.
6 dogs before you need a kenneling permit.
Okay,
And we're still working on the kenneling law too.
okay, that was my question. All owners or harborers who breed dogs and or sell dogs shall be subject to this article upon the effective date of this article and are required to make immediate application for and to obtain a kennel special use permit. Do you have any idea what you're thinking about with regard to that kennel special use permit?
What I can tell you is that we're still working on that, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the board and misstate your position, but I think that our objective is to pass these laws together. Is that correct?
Or you can,
Yeah.
yes, but or if we don't have the kennel law ready, you can always say what Ag and Markets pertains to as far as kennels until we get it done. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do this one first, and then go to the next one, because.
But you
Do you have
can't,
that Ag and Markets law, what does it specifically say with regard to kennels?
The sections that I printed out did not deal with the kenneling, that was just the dangerous dog portion of it.
I know.
I'll be honest with you,
I know.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I do. I read it and it just said, that it only pertained, and that it only pertained to a certain thing, and then a town could make their own, kennel laws. But let me just give you
I've
some
been
time, I'll
looking
try
at
to
the
find it.
town of Alden kennel law, and it seems pretty effective and succinct.
Mhm.
We only
I
have
haven't
one
gotten
kennel.
what?
We only have one kennel in the
Yeah.
town of Olden.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And this was adopted 2 years ago, so, or a little over a year and a half ago, so.
What does it say?
What?
What does Alden say about kennels?
Well, they've got several pages of information.
okay.
But you have to have
Yeah.
a physical kennel building.
Yeah.
The building code guy comes in and inspects it, then dog control will come in and inspect it. You pay it every year. That's the problem, this is what I've been having with Alden, which is why we're working on trying to change things, is because people have more than 6 dogs, and they don't own a kennel, they don't breed, they have just more than 6 dogs. So Alden is working in the middle of changing everything right now, and I'll just speak down that half because I'm dog control for Alden.
I will
So are you
have,
having enforcement problems with the kenneling law then?
No, my town's just been taking license from people that have more than 2 dogs in the town, and I have families that have anywhere up to 8 to 10 dogs, and we've just been taking their money, so nothing's been enforced. And I said, how do I enforce laws if we're not even enforcing and taking their money? To be honest, that, Alden is a mess on the dog end, they have not been, following up on dog license too and stuff like that, so that's what I'm fixing.
Yeah, and I know according to our town clerk, we have, I believe, like 4 or 5 households that would fall into the kennel range of having
Did you
more
find
than
it?
6 dogs. Everybody else is fewer than
okay, the issue that I have, okay, I'm looking right now at the New York kennel laws. When you talk about, you know,
The housing.
Are you
the
on,
housing and stuff,
are you on Ag and Markets? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's they're kind
Yeah.
of
is
short version.
I have, with my dogs, I have kennels downstairs, and I have a big fenced-in yard outside with 6-foot kennels inside of that. I don't have dangerous dogs, okay? And I'm concerned, I know a lot of localities, maybe not in this state, but other states, are changing their dog laws with regard to breeders. And I'm talking about small hobby breeders, which I am, okay? I'm a small hobby breeder. I breed a litter maybe once every 3-4 years. And I'm not so inclined to go and change the arrangements that I have in my house for keeping my dogs, such as what's said here. Space, ventilation, sanitation, resting surfaces. I've been in dogs too long to know how dogs should be kept, and I'm not going to go, I'm concerned about that particular part of your law changing where you're gonna have to have me go through and make changes to where my dogs are kept, just to meet your requirements. That, I'm sorry, I know more about keeping dogs than probably most of you do, okay? Because I've been breeding so long. So that is my big concern.
Well,
Is-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Says it's
Doesn't,
special.
puppies don't count until they get a certain age, correct?
No, but they want
Correct.
you to have the actual physical kennel. This has been my argument with the town of Walden. So the town of Newstead, I would recommend looking at them. They have a multi-dog use permit. It's $50 and then they pay that annually. And then they have to license every single dog up to a limit. I thought the limit was 25. They're allowed the multi-dog use. So those are for people that do not have a kennel, that are maybe hobby breeders or do rescue work, stuff like that. And the dog control officer comes in and goes, hi, I just need to see the records that you dogs are up to date. You do take them to the vet like you are promising us that they go there annually. Everything looks good here. You look around, everyone looks healthy. You're not seeing a dog with calf abs like lying or dead. And you will sign off on that permit. And it's checked every year. That is what the town of Newstead is doing, and you can talk to Andy about that. He's
But the
still seal that.
state does that on a level.
For
the
you, for
state,
that,
if
but that's
you-
what that town is
If you
doing.
register yourself as a commercial breeder.
Yes, that's USDA for that. But
Right,
I'm saying
exactly.
Newstead offers a multi-dog use permit. It's not a kennel license, because these people are not kennels, but they are hobby breeders.
So I
No.
still have to have someone like yourself come in and look at my dogs to say that whether they're up to date on their shots and they're being cared for and they've got water and all this and that.
That's just what Newstead does. I'm just
So I
saying,
don't care what Newstead does.
but I'm just saying, that's
That
different
would be
than
something
kennels.
that
Isn't
we
that
build
ag and
into the
markets?
kennel. That would be something that we end up building into the actual kennel law. The definition of kenneling in this law basically just says, if you're over that 6-dog limit for, average residential use, you're considered a kennel. So I mean, the options are, and again, we don't have the kennel law yet. Have we, that's really more your thing. Are we even working draft at this point?
It's kind of taken a backseat while we worked on this. We were working on it a bit before.
But that would be something for us to consider in the actual kenneling law. Who is, is there some sort of a distinction between a commercial kennel and a local hobby breeder or something like that? But for the purposes of this law, it basically is just like, if you're over that 6-dog residential threshold we have, you're considered a kennel and you're subject to that law. And at that point, the options are, you could do the special use permit, or depending on, if you're only doing it every few years, you could potentially ask for a variance from the strict application of the law.
I guess one thing I would wonder too, if we don't, depending upon what our kennel law reads, if the state is still saying, if you're operating a kennel, whether under their definition of a kennel, regardless of what our
That's the
definition
problem.
of a kennel is, will they still come in and, because, I mean, I know the county just sunk tens of thousands of dollars into renovating the animal control shelter because the state is now considering the fact that these animals don't have a voice like humans do. So the living conditions there are monitored and adjusted even better than in public schools.
That's the Animal Care Act that's going
Yeah.
in place December 15th, 2025. So that's what I'm trying to say, a
Yeah.
kennel is different than a home that has multiple dogs, that does a breeding or a rescue, or just, they can't have kids, so they decide they want 10 dogs. That is not a kennel. My friend is the one that has the kennel in town of Alden. She has a kennel. It's a full barn setup. I think she could have 15 dogs on each side, outdoor runs where they're inside and outside. She operates a kennel. She used to breed, and she was board dogs there. That is a kennel. I want no part of that. I just like my dogs. I can't have kids. I got my dogs.
So, what I don't wanna do is, you have a setup that you're used to.
I show my dogs.
I know, okay, so you have a setup. I don't wanna change that. What I'm trying to do is, if somebody else comes into town, okay, and they're gonna start thinking, they see you're a breeder, but you have to I don't wanna change what you're doing, but I think if somebody new comes in, then they have to start following the kennel law.
Yeah,
I mean-
that's essentially a pre-existing non-conforming use, meaning I was doing X, Y, Z before we implemented this law, and that's, I believe, what you referred to as grandfathering.
I mean,
There's,
does that pertain to
Special
this?
use permit
Yeah.
also, isn't it?
yeah, but there's an argument that I
New people.
don't have to because I'm a pre-existing non-conforming
Right,
use.
I understand that, I mean, a new one, don't they?
Right.
Have to get
Yes, a
special
new
use
one
permit.
would.
I mean, because you don't have any complaints. Does Ag and Markets control what you do?
Mm-mm.
Do you
They
say
don't
something,
know,
does
they
somebody
only,
have
there's
to?
an exception for, I don't know the language, but there's been, he may know, there's an exception for, I don't know if they call it hobby breeders, they might.
Okay,
But I do know that a lot of states, especially out west, are even changing the hobby breeder law to enforce it, to make it, equal to the restrictions that they have on commercial breeders. And I just don't want that to happen here, okay?
What is the definition of a hobby breeder?
A hobby breeder is somebody that, they have dogs and, they have a specific breed, okay, or a couple specific breeds. And they breed for the betterment of that dog. And they're involved with dog activities, either dog showing, obedience, tracking, whatever, okay? That's a hobby breeder. And they're very careful as to how they breed their dogs. They've got pedigrees that they can remember from day one. And those are the type of people that we always are promoting to, if you're gonna get a purebred dog, to go to those people, okay? But that's a hobby breeder. Somebody that has, they're involved in their specific breed and they're trying to improve the qualities of that breed, and they're always concentrating on the temperament and everything else about that specific breed. And they're not just breeding dogs, just to sell dogs. I never sell dogs just for the money, okay? Because to me, the money doesn't matter, it's the quality of the dogs and who they go to. And that's why I only have a litter maybe once every 3 or 4 years, because I usually, if I can, keep a dog out of whatever I breed. I will not breed a litter if I am not keeping something. If I can't keep something, then I don't breed. And I don't, unlike, there are a lot of breeders across the country who, part of making their living is breeding and selling puppies. And I think that's the big thing that you folks should be concerned about.
well,
is
isn't that kind of what we're trying to do though? Because what you're doing is okay. I mean, but what if you get somebody that comes in, I'm a breeder, but it turns into a puppy mill?
Well, then
I
you
mean, we
gotta
don't
monitor
want, we
that.
don't want that.
Right.
No.
You're doing it right. I mean, what you're saying is, I have separate cages for them, and I've been doing this for years, I know, but I guess what with on the other side, we're trying to prevent people from coming and doing what you're doing, but having puppy mills, because that's not what we want.
Well, wouldn't they have to be inspected by the state?
So you're allowed to sell 10 puppies a year, so that is what you have to do before you have to register with the USDA. Once you go over 10 puppies, then you have to register as a breeder.
Correction. If the puppies are bred and sold on your residence, it's different. It's 24.
Ag and Market told me it's 10.
Wow.
I'll double check with them.
Better
I'll
better
talk-
check that, because
Yeah.
that's the way it's been. If you're licensed as a commercial breeder,
I don't know.
okay, it's 9,
Okay, I'll check with her.
but anybody
24 a
else,
year?
if you're breeding the dogs and they're sold and raised on your home premises, I think it's like 24. It doesn't follow the 9.
I'll double check.
Yeah,
with her.
I would double
Yeah,
check
I'll
that,
find out for you, that's fine.
okay, because a golden retriever can have 15 puppies.
That's why I was asking Ag and Market about
Because
that.
this is all gonna be
Yeah.
great information.
Because
Debbie, please come back when we do workshops and hearings for the kennel law, because this is all very valuable
I'd
information.
love to.
Good.
I mean, I'm just concerned about, good breeders and people that are following the laws and are,
Absolutely.
that are doing the best for dogs in general. I mean, I don't believe in selling dogs hand over fist or have dogs out barking or anything like that. But I'm just looking out for the dogs. And I want every dog to have a fair shot. So, yeah, I'd be interested, you know, because I have a lot of information at home, and, you know, I've been, like I say, I'm a member of a number of clubs, dog clubs. I've got probably about, you know, 15 champions that I have shown myself. So I mean, you know,
Pictures.
yeah, I'd love to help you guys, and if you
Okay.
need any help, let me know.
So is there a way to pass this without having the kennel law?
I think that we would have to, because we refer to the special use permit,
I mean, can we take, is it a good idea to take that part out until we really, you know, talk about? Because the egg,
where do we have that?
egg and markets is
About
gonna take
requiring
over
special use?
as
Okay, so,
far
and that's
as
under
how
restrictions.
dogs are being kept. But I don't know, I think that's just for rescues and shelters. I don't know.
There's other laws for breeders, it's different.
So the way that we could potentially work around that is kind of revising that last sentence to section 5H on page 5, where it says, all owners or harborers who breed dogs and or sell dogs shall be subject to this article upon the effective date of the article, and are required to make immediate application for and to obtain a special use permit. The problem is we don't have a process or a law for a special use permit for a kennel, so if we pass this, you now have a law in your books requiring people to do something they don't have a
Right,
process to do.
right, that's what I mean.
So we can either play with that or get the kennel law going, but I think that we've come to the position that gotta do the dog law first. So let's take a look at, we'll take a look at section H, figure out how to not put the residents in an untenable position.
Can you
You guys
put in
know
there,
that?
sorry, can you put in there, required to make immediate application for and to obtain, I just had it
What
in my
did you
mouth.
say? The
And to obtain,
multiple dog license?
I'll have to look
a
at ag and
kennel special
markets.
use permit if in effect at the time.
As soon as effective, yeah, if an effective at the time.
You mean leave it in there, we'll put that language?
Yeah, just so that, you know, until you guys get the special
Well,
use permit.
We'll figure that out. I might have to do some research, and I just wanna make sure that it doesn't become an unenforceable provision of the law.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's something that we'll look into, and we can make some revisions on, and whether it's something we talk about at another workshop or at our next public hearing, that's something that we can address, yes.
What did you find that it said in egg and markets?
I was
don't know
just
if I'm looking
reading,
at the same thing.
just reading about what they.
Is it Article 26?
Should be Article
C?
26.
Regulation of animal, that's regulation of animal shelters.
Okay, more than 9 for the purpose of consumer, the number of dogs you mean?
Yeah.
No,
Pet
just the
dealer.
kennel law itself,
Oh.
is that where you were getting all that info from?
This was part of that, yeah, that was a housing, let's see, pet dealer, more than 9 dogs.
You're looking at something like that. Regulation of animal. Oh.
Yeah, egg and markets, this is the sale. This was 30, this was the guidelines from the egg and markets, I think it's called guidelines.
Did that just go right to it?
Tell me
Oh,
about
is
the
this that
5B
regulation?
meeting.
Pet,
That was the last dog meeting that's recorded,
oh, yeah, sure.
if she wants to see it, you know,
Pet
public hearing.
dealer license
Oh, okay,
guidelines.
you're on
So
that
I'm
one.
in guidelines, and it's
Oh.
going by what they are, but it kind of simplifies it a
Okay,
little bit.
all right, I'm just gonna look
Okay, sorry.
Go down like 30.
Okay, ready to move on? Okay, so now we would be on page 6, section 6. A lot of what we had done before is basically just state that we were incorporating the terms of agriculture and markets law into our law. For the sake of people not having to pull another law, what I did was I just took the language straight out of agriculture and markets law and baked it right into this. So it starts kind of with the procedural aspects. Anybody who witnesses an attack or is the victim of an attack, or if it's a kid, their parent, may contact the dog control officer or a police or peace officer and make a complaint. If the dog control officer or police officer receives a complaint, they have an affirmative obligation to inform the complaining party of their rights to commence a dangerous dog action, should they so choose. If the person wants to do so, then the dog officer, or peace officer, or police officer brings the complaint, gets a sworn deposition from the complainant, and brings the case to the judge. Alternatively,